The date was October 28, 2022. A Friday, just days before the midterm elections. The air was thick with anticipation, the nation on edge. In the peaceful San Francisco neighborhood of Pacific Heights, a nightmare was about to unfold. Inside a stately home, Paul Pelosi, husband of then Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, lay sleeping. Shortly before 2:30 a.m., an intruder shattered the peace, breaking in through a glass door. This was no ordinary burglar, this was an assailant with a chilling objective: to harm Paul Pelosi and send a message of terror. The intruder, later identified as 42-year-old David DePape, confronted the 82-year-old Paul Pelosi in his bedroom, demanding to know the whereabouts of Nancy Pelosi. Armed with a hammer, DePape's intentions were clear. What followed was a brutal attack, the sound of the hammer echoing through the house, a scene straight out of a horror movie. Paul Pelosi, caught completely off guard, fought back with whatever strength he could muster. The struggle was brief, but violent, leaving him with a fractured skull and serious injuries to his arm and right hand. As police arrived on the scene, alerted by a desperate 911 call from Paul Pelosi, they witnessed a struggle between the two men. DePape, still wielding the hammer, was quickly apprehended. The horrifying scene they encountered spoke volumes about the brutality of the attack. Paul Pelosi, bloodied and dazed, was rushed to the hospital, his life hanging in the balance. The nation watched in horror as news of the attack spread like wildfire, sending shockwaves through the political landscape and raising profound questions about the safety of public figures in an increasingly polarized world. The attack on Paul Pelosi, a seemingly random act of violence, soon took on a more sinister significance as details about DePape's background and motivations emerged. It became clear that this was no mere burglary gone wrong. This was a politically motivated attack, fueled by the toxic rhetoric and conspiracy theories that have increasingly permeated American society. DePape, entangled in the dark web of online extremism, had targeted Paul Pelosi as a means to strike at his wife, the then Speaker of the House. This realization sent shivers down the spines of many, highlighting the chilling reality of how online hate can spill over into real-world violence. In the aftermath of the attack, the wheels of justice began to turn. DePape, facing a slew of serious charges including attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, and elder abuse, was arraigned in court. As the legal process unfolded, a clearer picture of DePape's troubled past and extremist views emerged. His social media activity revealed a deep-seated hatred for Nancy Pelosi and a fervent belief in right-wing conspiracy theories, including QAnon. It became evident that DePape's actions were not just a product of mental instability, but were also fueled by the toxic stew of misinformation and hate that has proliferated online. The trial, which captivated the nation, was a stark reminder of the fragility of democracy and the growing threat of political violence. Prosecutors meticulously laid out their case, presenting a mountain of evidence pointing to DePape's guilt. The defense, while acknowledging the brutality of the attack, focused on DePape's mental state, arguing that he was suffering from delusions and was not fully in control of his actions. The jury, faced with a complex and emotionally charged case, deliberated for days before reaching a verdict. On August 23, 2023, nearly a year after the attack, the jury delivered its verdict, finding DePape guilty on all counts. The verdict, met with a mix of relief and somber reflection, underscored the severity of the crime and the need for accountability. The sentencing phase of the trial commenced, with both the prosecution and defense presenting arguments to sway the judge's decision. The prosecution, highlighting the brutality of the attack and the potential for DePape to reoffend, pushed for a lengthy prison sentence. The defense, while acknowledging the gravity of the charges, pleaded for leniency, emphasizing DePape's mental health struggles and the need for rehabilitation. After careful consideration of the evidence and arguments presented, the judge handed down a sentence of 30 years in prison for David DePape. The sentence, while not as severe as some had anticipated, reflected the seriousness of the crime and the need to deter future acts of political violence. The judge, in delivering the sentence, emphasized the need to protect public figures and uphold the sanctity of democracy. DePape's sentencing marked a pivotal moment in the case, bringing a sense of closure to a harrowing chapter in American history. However, the impact of his actions and the broader implications for the safety of political figures continued to reverberate throughout the nation. The 30-year sentence handed down to David DePape sparked a wave of reactions across the country. Some hailed it as a just punishment, a fitting consequence for a brutal and politically motivated attack. They argued that the sentence sent a clear message that violence against public figures would not be tolerated and that those who engage in such acts will face severe consequences. Others, however, questioned whether the sentence truly reflected the gravity of the crime and the lasting impact it had on Paul Pelosi, his family, and the nation as a whole. Those who felt the sentence was too lenient argued that it failed to adequately address the sinister nature of DePape's actions. They pointed to the fact that this was not a random act of violence but a calculated attack on a political figure's family, motivated by extremist beliefs and fueled by the toxic rhetoric that has become increasingly prevalent in American society. They argued that a longer sentence would have served as a stronger deterrent against future attacks, and would have sent a more forceful message about the importance of protecting democratic institutions and the individuals who represent them. On the other hand, those who supported the 30-year sentence argued that it struck a balance between punishment and rehabilitation. They acknowledged the brutality of the attack and the need for accountability, but also emphasized the importance of considering DePape's mental health struggles and the possibility of his eventual reintegration into society. They argued that a lengthy prison sentence, while satisfying the public's desire for retribution, would not necessarily address the underlying factors that contributed to DePape's actions. Instead, they advocated for a sentence that included both punishment and rehabilitative measures, aimed at addressing DePape's mental health issues and helping him to develop a deeper understanding of the consequences of his actions. The debate over the appropriateness of DePape's sentence reflects the complex and often conflicting emotions surrounding cases of political violence. On the one hand, there is a natural desire for retribution, a sense that those who commit such heinous acts should face the full weight of the law. On the other hand, there is also a recognition that punishment alone may not be enough to prevent future acts of violence, and that addressing the underlying social and political factors that contribute to extremism is crucial. Ultimately, the question of whether 30 years constitutes justice for David DePape's crimes is a matter of individual perspective and a reflection of the broader societal debate on how to address the growing threat of political violence in an increasingly polarized world. The attack on Paul Pelosi reverberated far beyond the walls of his San Francisco home, sending shockwaves through the halls of power in Washington, D.C. This incident served as a chilling reminder of the vulnerability of public figures and the increasing threat of political violence in an era marked by deep partisan divisions and the proliferation of extremist ideologies. In the wake of the attack, lawmakers from both sides of the aisle expressed their horror and condemned the violence. But the incident also sparked a broader debate about the state of political discourse in the country and the need for increased security measures to protect elected officials and their families. The attack on Paul Pelosi raised serious concerns about the safety of lawmakers and their families, prompting calls for enhanced security measures. Some advocated for increased funding for personal security details for high-profile politicians, while others suggested exploring technological solutions such as advanced surveillance systems and panic buttons to better protect lawmakers' homes and offices. The incident also highlighted the need for improved threat assessment protocols and the importance of taking online threats seriously, as DePape's social media activity had revealed his extremist views and his intention to target Nancy Pelosi. Beyond the immediate security concerns, the attack on Paul Pelosi also sparked a broader conversation about the increasingly toxic nature of political discourse in the United States. Many commentators pointed to the role of inflammatory rhetoric and the spread of misinformation and conspiracy theories in fueling political violence. They argued that the normalization of hateful language and the demonization of political opponents had created a climate of fear and animosity that could lead to real-world violence. The incident served as a stark reminder of the importance of promoting civil discourse and fostering a political environment where dissenting views can be expressed without resorting to violence or threats. The attack on Paul Pelosi prompted calls for greater civility and responsibility in political discourse. Some urged lawmakers to tone down their rhetoric and refrain from using language that could incite violence. Others emphasized the importance of media literacy and critical thinking skills to help citizens discern fact from fiction and resist the allure of misinformation and conspiracy theories. The incident served as a wake-up call, highlighting the urgent need to address the root causes of political violence and foster a more respectful and constructive political dialogue. The attack on Paul Pelosi left an indelible mark on the Pelosi family, forever altering their lives and casting a long shadow over their future. While Paul Pelosi physically recovered from his injuries, The emotional and psychological scars of that night remained. The trauma of the attack, the fear he experienced, and the violation of his home left a lasting impact on his sense of security and well-being. Nancy Pelosi, who was not home at the time of the attack, was left grappling with the horror of what had transpired and the realization that her position of power had made her family a target. The attack on Paul Pelosi had a profound impact on Nancy Pelosi's political career. The incident forced her to confront the personal risks associated with her high-profile role and the potential for violence to spill over into her personal life. While she remained resolute in her commitment to public service, the attack undoubtedly weighed heavily on her mind, prompting her to reflect on the safety of her family and the toll that her political career had taken on their lives. In the aftermath of the attack, she spoke candidly about the emotional impact of the incident, expressing her gratitude for the outpouring of support she had received while also acknowledging the lasting trauma that her family had endured. The attack on Paul Pelosi also brought into sharp focus the human cost of political polarization and the increasing threat of violence against public figures and their families. The incident served as a stark reminder that behind the political titles and the partisan battles are real people with families, loved ones, and lives outside the political arena. The attack on Paul Pelosi humanized the political landscape, reminding the nation that political disagreements should not devolve into personal attacks or violence. The incident prompted a wave of empathy and support for the Pelosi family, transcending political divides as people from all walks of life expressed their concern for their well-being and their condemnation of the violence. The attack on Paul Pelosi left an enduring legacy on the Pelosi family, shaping their lives in profound ways. The incident served as a stark reminder of the fragility of life, the importance of cherishing loved ones, and the enduring impact of trauma. While the Pelosis have shown remarkable resilience in the face of adversity, the events of that night will forever be etched in their memories, a constant reminder of the dark side of American politics, and the ever-present threat of violence that looms over public figures and their families. The attack on Paul Pelosi stands as a stark reminder of the fragility of American democracy and the growing threat of political violence in a nation increasingly divided along partisan lines. The incident, fueled by extremist beliefs and the toxic rhetoric that has permeated political discourse, serves as a wake-up call, urging Americans to confront the dangers of escalating polarization and the normalization of violence as a means of political expression. The attack on Paul Pelosi transcends partisan divides, highlighting the urgent need for a collective effort to protect democratic institutions, promote civil discourse, and ensure the safety of public figures and their families. The incident underscores the importance of addressing the root causes of political violence, including the spread of misinformation, the proliferation of conspiracy theories, and the normalization of hateful rhetoric. It highlights the need for greater media literacy and critical thinking skills to help citizens discern fact from fiction and resist the allure of extremist ideologies. It also emphasizes the role of social media platforms in amplifying extremist content and the need for greater accountability from tech companies in curbing the spread of harmful information. The attack on Paul Pelosi serves as a call to action for all Americans to work towards a more civil and respectful political discourse. It underscores the importance of engaging in constructive dialogue, listening to opposing viewpoints, and seeking common ground. It emphasizes the need for leaders across all sectors of society to set an example of civility and responsibility in their words and actions. It reminds us that political disagreements should not devolve into personal attacks or violence, and that the pursuit of political goals should never come at the expense of human dignity and safety. The attack on Paul Pelosi is a stark reminder that the health of American democracy depends on the collective commitment of its citizens to uphold democratic values, engage in civil discourse, and reject violence as a means of political expression. It is a call to action to bridge divides, foster understanding, and work together to create a more perfect union where differences are respected, disagreements are debated peacefully, and the safety of all is paramount. The path forward requires a collective effort to address the root causes of political violence, promote a culture of civility and respect, and ensure that the principles of democracy are upheld for generations to come.